See if we can't get this to go. Try to get King Mo on. And this is, here we go. King Mo is with us. I could see him as we speak. I am actually in LA right now, standing on the top of the W. It's pretty awesome. Today, I wanted to talk to you guys about why. Why do you need to start learning how to weaponize your wrestling? Dude, there ain't nobody better in the world to talk about this from a freaking career standpoint, man, from being a pro, actually making money through weaponizing wrestling. Dude, let's bring him on, man. The man, the myth, the legend, the king, King Mo Lawal. Let me bring him on. What's up, King Mo?
What's going on, man? What's up? What's up?
Hey, dude, so happy to have you here. That's the question that I'm really trying to bring up with these people, man, is, we know that wrestling is the greatest prediction of MMA champions, like 2-1 over something like, say, jiu-jitsu or boxing or something like that. And yet so many people are hungry for more wrestling. It's not like there's wrestling clubs in the strip malls. It's all taekwondo and jiu-jitsu. So I'm trying to change that. And I'm trying to win the hearts and minds on this. And I can't think of anybody that's better at this than you, man. You made like a whole career out of weaponizing wrestling. So, what are your thoughts on that? First of all, we got young dudes on here coming up, trying to, we talked a little bit about your come up on the last time we chatted. What can somebody do? One, that don't know wrestling needs to learn, and two, that knows wrestling but wants to actually go from being an amateur into actually making some money.
Well, let me touch base on the weaponizing wrestling. If you want to make money, you gotta weaponize it. Jiu-jitsu is great. It's great for self-defense. But in actual combat, it's not about defending, it's about taking. As wrestlers, we go out there and take. We dominate. We impose our will and break our opponents mentally and physically. But here's one thing. It sounds great, but it's hard to get to that point, to get there. Some people try to get there by learning taekwondo, by learning jiu-jitsu, by learning judo. But guess what? The only way you can learn how to break somebody and how to physically oppose somebody and take their soul is by wrestling, by beating them down, grinding them to the ground, crossface, cradle, half Nelson, bar the wrist up, throw a leg in, stretch them out. You want to oppose your will, because here's the thing, right? For the most part, grappling is made to be offensive. It's offensive, but now for some reason they've made it defensive as a self-defense to dumb it down for people to learn how to defend themselves. But wrestling has never been dumbed down. In wrestling, if you try to play with too much defense in wrestling, guess what that's called? That's called stalling. That's called stalemate. We ain't trying to stalemate. We're trying to dominate. We're not trying to stalemate. We're here to dominate. All the other grappling arts are there to stalemate. But wrestling, American wrestling, folk style wrestling, we're here to dominate.
Yeah, I love that because, and this is something that I try to convey to people when I'm either coaching them or I'm coaching coaches to coach their cats. And this is what you're talking about, I think. You can't be wrestling. You can't fight not to lose. There's a difference between fighting not to lose and fighting to dominate, to like crush, to take their soul, like you said. But like, part of the thing is some of these cats don't want to do the work that it takes to be a soul crusher.
Mm-hmm. And then here's the thing, right? I'm gonna give you tell a secret. A lot of those guys that don't want to put in the work, they go into jiu-jitsu, they go into judo, they go into taekwondo. They take the other martial arts. They're a little easier. They don't take as much dedication, because with wrestling, if you want to get to the top level, actually in grappling, but especially with wrestling, you want to get to the top level and score points and get pins. You have to go out there, compete, lay it on the line, grind, be at every practice, do grind matches. You know what I'm saying? Work your top and bottom. You got to work everything at a high level. You know, because look, in wrestling, you have it's a certain amount of time you have to score, a certain amount of points. So the goal is to go out there and outwork and outwill and break your opponent in that 6 to 7 minute period. You have to do it. Now, every other sport, they got like advantage points. You can lay, you can hold, you can. Nah, we ain't trying to see that. In American wrestling, you do that. That's called stalling. We ain't trying to see no stalling.
So let me ask you something, because I mean, dude, I went to UFC too, so I've been in watching this and inspired by MMA since '94, right? Like a lot of these dudes ain't even been alive that long. You've been in the game forever too, and because of that, you came up with a strong wrestling base, and you scrapped, dude. It wasn't like it was handed to you. We talked about this on the last call. Anybody want to go back and watch that? It was amazing talk about the come up for King Law. So King Mo, you've been around. Because of that, you've been in some badass wrestling rooms, and you've also been in a crap ton of MMA gyms and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gyms. What we're trying to do with scientific wrestling is really bring that wrestling mindset, because honestly, man, a lot of wrestling is subsidized by schools and by the government and that kind of stuff. And you know this better than anybody. When somebody gets old enough and they don't have a high school wrestling club or a college wrestling club, they don't know what to do. They ain't going to go to the local USA Wrestling Club or whatever, because it's not organized in the same way. So, what could we bring from wrestling into these kind of more traditional martial arts settings of like the jiu-jitsu with the bowing and the belts and all that, to start making soul crushers, to make people who want to wrestle to win, to dominate, and not wrestle to not lose?
Well, I honestly, like this. I'm gonna be honest. Like this last Abu Dhabi, I watched it, and I saw something that I saw more leg attacks. I saw more throws, single
Wrestling.
leg, high crotches, low singles, inside trips, foot sweeps, snap downs, go behind shucks, 2-on-1s. I saw a lot more wrestling. You didn't see much guard pulling because you're seeing all these guys that do jujitsu are Marcus Galval wrestling. He trained the church boys. A lot of these guys, the Ruto twins, are in wrestling rooms because they know, hey, they've never felt outside of a boxer's jab. The only thing you can speak on maybe a Muay Thai leg kick or a wrestler's pressure. A boxer's jab. When the first time you spar with the boxer, you feel that jab. You're like, damn, it's different. You know, the first time you spar with the good kickboxer, you feel a good leg kick. You're like, damn, that's different. The first time you face a wrestler and you're like, I'm good, and then you're like, wow, that pressure, that pace. Oh my God, he's not stopping. Luckily, I felt that when I was younger, but then it became normal because I got used to being uncomfortable. But some people, they don't become used to being uncomfortable until they're older, and by the time they get comfortable, they've been broken 8 or 9 times. So I got broken when I was 16, 17. I couldn't imagine getting broke in when I'm 25, 26, 27. No.
Yeah, I think there's something to that. So if I can maybe take the essence of what I heard you say, and you could correct me if I'm not getting the essence, is honestly, if we're going to create these soul takers outside of the wrestling room and start teaching people wrestling, they got to get used to being uncomfortable. They got to put themselves into a place where they're comfortable being uncomfortable.
And that's in the wrestling room. And check this out, right? I've known, I've known a few guys. A guy by the name of Jeff Lindsay. I used to train him when I was in Oklahoma. I was in Central Oklahoma, and he was a jiu-jitsu guy. And he was an old school. This is back in 99, 2000, mind you. He came to Central Oklahoma. We were the top wrestling school in the nation, D2 school, mind you. And we wrestled everybody. He came to our school because he didn't face a wrestler. And he's like, hey, I'm about to fight a wrestler. I don't know what it's about. I've seen it, but let me experience it. And boy, he experienced that ass whooping, and that changed his whole outlook. Now, He's a jiu-jitsu guy, but he's very wrestling orientated. Like everything's about wrestler's pace. Wrestler Dan Gable. He went to Iowa and trained with the Militich after that. So I mean,
Wow.
like, just one experience with a wrestler can change your life, good or bad. It can change you. It can
Yeah,
scar you.
yeah, right. Like hopefully that life-changing experience is happening in the training room and not at a competition.
Yeah. But at the same time, it could be good because I've seen guys, um, MMA fighters that go out there, the kickboxers get beaten up by wrestlers, and then all of a sudden they're forced to learn how to wrestle. They're forced to learn to sprawl, and eventually, from learning to sprawl, they learn double leg, learn single leg, learn high crotch, learn inside trip, throws, throw bys, shucks, and they learn how to wrestle because they got dominated and beaten so bad. Look, if you can't beat them, join them. You know, if you can't beat them, join them. Whatever defeated you, learn about it and then embrace it. And that's what you're seeing more and more. You're seeing some jiu-jitsu guys like Hani Yaya, high-level jiu-jitsu guy, always in the wrestling room. All these guys, the American top team, they're good at jiu-jitsu. Guess what? Monday is Mako Monday. It's wrestling practice, right? And that's the biggest practice we have. That's the busiest time our gym is. Even more so than sparring. People come for sparring, but Monday on wrestling day, the gym is full. It's full to the point. It's full, max to the max.
So let me ask you a question. When you're running a class like that, so again, to me, this is brilliant because this is our whole mission with scientific wrestling is really to bring wrestling to the world, right? And to have everybody doing it. And I think this is what jiu-jitsu's done well. They've really made jiu-jitsu available for a lot of people. And I'm trying to do that with wrestling, like bring wrestling. And honestly, you know this, I know this. The main thing that actually saved wrestling, kept it in the Olympics, saved it with all this Title IX stuff, was uh, its winningness in the UFC. We
Yeah,
know that it was the UFC that drove all these wrestling programs. And now you're telling me that your number one class, the biggest class, is a wrestling class at the MMA gym. How do you run practice? I actually want to give people a little bit of a preview because I got you for 3 dates on the Science of Violence tour coming up here. I'm super excited for me personally just to see you work and what you do. Well, let's give them a taste. What does that look like versus, say, a jiu-jitsu class or a boxing or a Muay Thai class? They come in and they come into a wrestling class with King Mo. What does that look like?
okay, first let me step back real quick. Let me touch base on. Okay, so here's my thing, right? Wrestling. I know you want to bring wrestling, and the thing is, I'm for you on that. But here's one thing: the problem with wrestling. Here's one big problem with wrestling. One huge problem with wrestling, right? And one thing that me and you overlooked because we didn't fall into that trap. The weak get weeded out quick. If you can handle the hot wrestling room, if you can't handle getting put in the half Nelson, if you can't handle fighting, guess what? You're gonna be gone. So
Yeah,
that's why
yeah,
it's like Sparta. That's why it's like you have a certain select few that can do certain things. There's a small certain select few in this population on the earth that can withstand a wrestling practice over
true,
and over and over again. Yeah, some
true.
guys show up for one, they might show up for two, they might show up for a month. But can you withstand a year, 2 years, 3 years, a career of wrestling? No. That's why, you could, you could bring, we could bring wrestling to the masses, but all it's gonna do is make people either love it or hate it more. Now, jiu-jitsu, other martial arts like judo, you get your hand held, you know what I'm saying? There are more handles, you know what I'm saying? And
Yeah,
also it's like
yeah.
wrestling, like you do it for you do it for more for the technique. I've never seen anyone say, "Hey, I'm coming to wrestling practice and to bang just to learn the technique." No, no. People come, bang, and they go compete. No one's like, let me just roll and to get caught out here and get a messed up knees and hurt back and messed up shoulders. For what? You know what I'm saying? That's why it's like we can get to the masses, but all it's gonna do is it's gonna be black or white. You love it or hate it. Ain't no gray area. There's no gray matter with wrestling. It's either you love it or hate it. And one
Dude,
thing that I've seen, people say love it, but the ones that really love it will do it for over 10 years, over 15 years, and not many people will do that.
dude, I love that insight because this has been the hard thing, actually, for me, in as a business person, exactly what you're talking about. Wrestling is freaking hard, dude. It breaks people. Like it breaks people, 100%. It weeds people out. Like it's a filter because
Think,
it's
think,
so
yeah.
hard.
Think about this, right? Okay, so like imagine, okay, we can go to the gym and we wrestle. The goal is not to go to your back, or we can go to the gym, wrestle. If you go to your back, you can just stay there. You can just stay there, and hold. Once time runs up, you shake hands, go to the next person, or you go to a wrestling room. Like you get pummeled because once you get taken down, you have to get back to your feet. You just can't sit there. There's no resting. There's no place to rest in the wrestling room. I mean, in a wrestling match, unless it's on your feet while you're hand fighting. It's active recovery. Now, other sports like other self defense based sports, because wrestling's not self defense, self offense. Other
Yeah,
self
yeah.
other self defense based sports or grappling arts. There's rest periods. We can sit, rest, hold, because it's used for defense. Which I understand. But wrestling is not used for defense. It's used for offense to attack.
dude,
Go.
dude. I've never heard that before. I love it. That wrestling is self offense, dude. That's so, dude.
Just
I
like
love it,
boxing.
dude.
So if you look at boxing and wrestling are cousins. So boxing is the wrestling of striking.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And wrestling is like the boxing of grappling.
Yes.
So you go out there and beat somebody up. Like now, other sports you block. They teach you blocks. In boxing, they teach you strikes. In
Yes.
wrestling, the first thing you learn is the stance and shots, then sprawl. You learn offense first. You know, in other sports, in other grappling arts, you learn defense first. Jiu-jitsu, judo, you learn defense first. Defense. How to defend yourself.
I
Position.
love it. So we got a couple comments. We got Terrell Cluding, who's saying, that sometimes it's better to go steal stuff than, I think he's saying he'd rather be a grappler than a wrestler. Okay, and then we got this other cat. I'm gonna mess up his name. Abdi Abdul Samed. I think I got it right. He
Mhm.
says, "How can he create culture that's more wrestling, more grind?" And like I'm gonna be honest here. It's fun. I love talking to you, King Mo, because you're so insightful on a lot of this stuff. I love that what you brought about the fact that wrestling is so hard it's a filter, and we got to be real about that. It may not be possible to truly bring it to the masses. Two, that you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And then three, it's self offense, dude. You're dropping like gold here, dude. I love all this. So, you know, I would like to know from your perspective, because you came up a wrestler and got into MMA and have done. I mean, dude, you're like a champion in like major leagues. You're a true pro. Figured out how to make money from this. Let's talk about two scenarios. We got a cat who never wrestled like you did, never went to Oklahoma, never was in high school wrestling, never did college wrestling, but now he's in an MMA gym and he needs to get up to speed on his wrestling. I'd like to see what do you have that guy? How do you, what's that look like to get that guy up wrestling? And two, how do you take somebody who is a good wrestler? Maybe he's not. Maybe he didn't win Fargo or whatever. But this is a good. He's like the best guy in his city. He's a good wrestler for his city, and he rolls into a jiu-jitsu club, and he's changing levels and getting guillotined or going to MMA, changing levels and getting knees to the head. How do you approach those two different guys? Because that's kind of our demo, right? It's like jiu-jitsu guys that want to learn wrestling or wrestlers that want to learn submission without having to learn how to do the lazy setups.
All right, so let me answer that one just question, Al Samed. Hey, in order to foster some type of wrestling culture within your gym, you have to have competition. You have to have like you have to put some time on the clock and be like, all right, y'all, here's a scenario. Partner A, you're down by one. Partner two, you're up. Someone needs to score. You have to make them spar out certain scenarios. Sometimes handicap them, make them work on shots. Have them drill over and over again. Make things become muscle memory.
So
All
you
right.
like the games approach, not necessarily drilling per se, but putting people in scenarios and have them do the live game from that
Yeah.
scenario.
Drill spar. It's like for instance, you can drill spar where it's like give some, take some. Where I'm shooting and I might not try to finish the position, I might purposely put myself in a bad position so I can work myself out of it. I might purposely let you win and almost let you score so I can figure out a way to get out of it. Because the only way you can work on those areas is by putting yourself in those areas. And sometimes people, I stress to this people stress this to my athletes. I'm like, look, you come to practice to get better. You don't come to just win. So you got to put yourself in different scenarios. You got to try different things. You want to make your low percentage attacks high percentage. You want to figure out a way to make all your low percentage attacks, like spinning back fists and flying knees and stuff. You want to make that high percentage if you can. So figure out a way in practice to make those low percentage techniques high percentage. Figure out a way to make your weaknesses strengths. And make your strengths even stronger.
So are you okay? I love that. I think that's fantastic advice. I hope that helps Abdi in terms of creating more of a sporting culture, scenario based drills, put yourself in bad positions. So let's say instead of the jiu-jitsu guy that needs to get up on wrestling, let's say you got a good folk styler, but you got to break him of some of the habits of folk style, because I can't tell you how many folk style guys get guillotined, right? Or they end up on the bad side of a knee, and they could be Ben Askren, who's a badass, but then all of a sudden you're on the bad side of a highlight reel because you're changing levels to something. What would you do with that dude?
Well, the thing is, you have to let them know, like, first of all, wrestlers, only time you really get kneed is when you change levels for defense. Ben Askren changed levels defensively. It wasn't an offensive shot. He didn't throw any offense at the guy to bring his hands up. So, like, wrestlers, you have to know, like, sometimes when you're shooting off of defense, you're leaving yourself open to get kneed. Also, if you're shooting and getting guillotined, that means that you're not doing anything to keep your opponent's hands up. So you're probably just shooting naked shots. If you're throwing a good 1-2 or 1-2-3-2, a good head kick, and you're shooting off that, their hands can still be up because you attacked their face. So if you're just shooting naked shots without throwing hands or kicks first, you're gonna get submitted. If you're just shooting just to shoot without throwing punches first, you're about to get kneed. So you have to set it up. It's all about setups.
I love it. So, and again, to the being offensive, that you're not going to take a knee if you already are setting it up because you're being offensive.
Yeah, because like they know you're gonna shoot. They know you're a wrestler. He's gonna shoot, so they're gonna be prepared for it. But you got to throw stuff to make them worry about your hands, your kicks, your knees, your elbows. Once they worry about all that stuff, the takedowns come secondary. Takedown defense comes secondary because they're worried about the other stimulus that's actually out there that could potentially harm them.
Yeah, and one other thing, we have kind of three people that are interested in what we do. Most of them are trying to figure out MMA. We have, like I said, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy trying to figure out wrestling. We have the wrestler trying to figure out, the submission game. But then, we have this other subgroup, and we're actually super strong in this one. And I'd love to get your perspective because you're one of these cats that's done it all. But pro wrestling, what are we doing with pro wrestling? Pro wrestling is a John Wick. It's a theatrical John Wick movie. We're trying to get people into what we're doing and using wrestling to do so. Now, one of the things that I've been trying to do, because I stumbled onto old timers like Billy Robinson, who was a legit shooter and knew these old catch-can moves, and Carl Gotch and all these other dudes that ended up being in pro wrestling. How do you think, what would be the fastest way to get a pro wrestler ready for an MMA fight so we don't end up looking like CM Punk? He actually looks good.
There is no way, really, unless we get the right opponent. You have to get the right opponent because, see, what happens for the most part is they see a pro wrestler and they're like, oh, he sells tickets. He's going to hit on our card. You got to put him up against somebody that is somewhat decent. And, like, if you watch when Batista fought Jonathan Ivey.
Yeah.
Jonathan Ivey had, like, 15 losses.
Right.
Batista had a tough fight. Everyone thought that Jonathan Ivey could go in there and just get ran over. No, he hurt Batista. He had Batista on spaghetti legs, right? But experience matters. You can be the best wrestler in the world, but if you go out there and you don't have the experience to, or you don't have the right opponent, you can't get beat. Me
So
and my
so 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 where you're going is that one, you got to get them booked against a tomato can, or they
or
actually have
just
to show up at wrestling practice, competitive wrestling, or start shooting in the gym or something.
and start training because like for instance, my first fight, I took the fight on 2 weeks notice or less, and his record was 54-10
Wow.
in Japan. So I'm like, but the thing is, I had an inkling about combat because I street fight, you know what I'm saying, and I had an idea. Like I love boxing, even though my boxing was horrible in that fight. I knew how to move. You know, some people, like some wrestlers, their only fight was in wrestling. The only fight was the wrestling matches, so they never threw hands. So it's like
Right.
it's a little different. And also, some wrestlers when you make a move, a punching, any motion toward the face, they flinch because the eye poke. You know what I'm saying? So you do this, like a lot of wrestlers flinch because I've been poked in the eye so many times. I had a problem with that because I've been poked real bad. So when anybody bring their hand towards my face, I like kind of just tuck down. It took me about maybe like a few weeks to break that because like I keep on thinking about getting poked in the eye. I get hit. When I get hit, there's no problem, but it's just the initial movement towards my hands. Small glove, big glove. When we do boxing gloves, no problem. It's just that when they had the MMA gloves, I worry about the thumb going to my eye.
I hear that. I hear that. So listen, because I want people to show up in the room. I've seen these statistics that like just even sitting next to somebody who's a high performer, your own performance increases by 15%. Just being in the room with somebody who's mediocre, your performance decreases by 30%. So I'm trying to get these guys in the room with dudes like you that have done it, that are high level. You want to get better at snowboarding. You go with people who are better than you. You got to be the dumbest guy in the room. And I'm trying to make these rooms with very high grappling literacy, so these guys can benefit. So for all the guys that are on the fence watching this, thinking about showing up, because you're going to be we're in Lake Charles. We're going to be in Denver. Where else do I got you booked? I got you booked somewhere else.
Norman.
Yeah, in Oklahoma. Yeah. So these guys sitting here watching this, there's the dude right now wondering, man, do I want to drop this money? Do I want to drive that distance? Do I want to show up and get in this room? And then there's the guy, after they decided to do that, they do the camp and they are damn stoked. What do you think is the difference between the two guys after spending a weekend with you, grinding, spending a full day getting it and really learning what it takes? What are they going to walk away from? What could they expect?
Well, the one that actually comes is going to end up understanding what it's like to be comfortable while being uncomfortable. I'm gonna show techniques. I'm a guy that I just don't show what I know because the thing is I can show you what I know, but you're not me. Let's work on what you want to work on. Let's troubleshoot certain areas. Oh, you guys are as a group, you guys are having problems with the underhook. Okay, let's work on that. You have problems with this. The thing is I'm here to help everybody. You come, or we'll troubleshoot some areas. If I see that everybody's doing all right, now add some. I'll add a little twist on something. I'll build up. We'll chain off things. Like I like to go out. We'll end up going a rabbit hole. We'll start with one move. Next, we're in a different move. Everything. I just let it flow naturally. I've been doing this for many years, and I just read the room and I make things work.
Yeah, I love it, dude. I love it. So this Abdi guy wants us to come out to his gym. So listen, Abdi, send me a DM. Okay, you're on YouTube. Send me a DM. We'll come out to your gym too, bro. Okay, like you have to learn from the guys who actually are winning, because they're gonna, like King Mo right now. You show up in the room, he's gonna freaking help you, dude. The expertise that he's won through the hard work, the sweat, the blood, the broken bones, the grind. You just got to show up in the room. He's going to look after you, man. He's going to push you, coach you, show you what it actually takes. But you actually got to get into the room, right? So King Mo, any closing thoughts for these guys? Clearly, I want them to pull the damn trigger. They need to stop thinking and they need to start doing. Any closing thoughts for these guys that are either looking to learn wrestling or looking to weaponize their wrestling?
Well, look, if you're looking to learn to weaponize wrestling, then you got to do it what you just said. Remember, you said you got to stop thinking, start doing. You know, you got to pull the trigger. If you want to accomplish a goal, you can think about it all you want, but then the next step is to do it. You know, you got to sacrifice. You know, you want to be the best, you got to sacrifice. Look, some people sacrifice their ears, their neck, their time, their money, but you got to sacrifice something to get to the top.
Dude, yeah, man, you nailed it, dude. I don't even have a carotid artery anymore. I got choked so many times. I got one. I'm on a spare. And I still love this shit. Like, you know what this call has really reminded me of, King Mo. You ever listen to that David Goggins cat?
Nah, I heard he's like a good runner or something like that.
Yeah, he's like a Navy SEAL and an endurance athlete, or anyway. But he talks. I love this, man, because when you start talking to these guys that do amazing things like you have done, there ain't no pill. It's wake up, show up, do it, sacrifice, go. Stop with this bullshit. It's not motivation, it's discipline. It's suffering. It's getting uncomfortable to where you're comfortable being uncomfortable. I mean, dude, so much wisdom on this fucking call. Pardon my language, but you got me hyped.
And it's cool. And the last thing is one thing sometimes what happens is when people go to it, and I've seen this happen in my life, seen this happen a few times. Some people will come to a good wrestling seminar and then leave and and they'll realize like, hey, I'm exposed. Like, I'm terrible and my gym is trash. I gotta set my game up because wow, like all this stuff I didn't know this was out there. And I've seen that happen. It's happened to me. I'm like, man, my gym is trash. I gotta leave this gym. It happened to me.
You didn't know better until you went to the better. Yeah. And when you see the better, now you go back, you're like, dude, there's better out there.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, so much wisdom, man. King Mo. Go, bro.
Oh, you can go. All right, let's do it.
All right, guys, show up, man. King Mo, dude, you are the best, dude. Seriously, I appreciate all the time that you take with us every time you jump on here. Super excited to get in the room. And for me, I'm just going to sit there like a sponge, try to pick up everything, all your subtleties and your genius. Guys, be like me, man. Get in the room. Show up, dude. We are showing up. There's no excuse you can't show up. King Mo, thanks again, brother. I'll see you very soon.
I see ya.
All right.